Knives are one of the most important tools to have in the kitchen. As someone told me, you really can't make food without cutting it. But they're also one of the least understood tools. So we're here today at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, with Chef Eve Felder, who's also the Associate Dean of the school, to learn a little bit more about how to find a really good knife. Thank you so much for joining us, Chef.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
So we have a lot of knives in front of us right now, and they all look very sharp and shiny and beautiful. But you can find knives almost anywhere in stores. There's so much selection.
There is a huge selection. So in terms of these knives, what's essential for the home cook? I am very partial to a turning knife. I think for small hands, that is a great knife to have. Of course, everyone should have a paring knife, and you should have a French knife, and you should have a serrated knife.
Okay, so of those four, I guess, that you pointed out,
right,
why are they so essential?
You know, they're just the basics. You don't need a slicing knife. You can slice using a French knife.
Okay.
It's nice. It's a nice to have, but not a need to have. Paring knife, turning knife. You don't need a turning knife. You do need a paring knife. I just happen to have an affinity for that little turning knife.
Mm-hmm. Because consumers have so many choices when it comes to buying knives, what mistakes are they apt to make?
You know, I think the first mistake is not having a knife, not trying a knife out and seeing if it fits your hand, if it feels good in your hand, if it is the right weight, if it's the right balance. Holding it, does it feel right in my hand when I hold it? Is it balanced? Is it going to be too heavy? And the only way of knowing if it's too heavy is feeling a light versus a heavy and feeling what feels good. And you know what? You're probably going to make a mistake the first time. They either are stamped, meaning that they just cut it out of the metal, or they're forged. And you typically want a forged knife with a full tang. The tang is the part that goes from the blade down the handle.
Okay, and why is that important to have that full tang?
It gives you stability. If it's a partial tang, it will not. You can't work it as hard. Knives go from really a good knife, not too expensive, $25 to $35, and they can go up to thousands of dollars.
Right.
The difference is a lot is the steel that it's made out of. Of course, carbon steel is the best. It keeps an edge. It also discolors anything high acid, anything with sulfuric acid like onions, and it rusts very, very easily. So we typically don't use those. Stainless steel is hard. It keeps a nice edge, not as well as carbon. But if you can get an alloy that's made out of a mix of those two, you have a really, really nice knife. What I always say to young cooks is, you know what? Get a good forged, inexpensive first chef's knife that fits in your hand. And don't spend a lot of money on it because you're going to end up ruining it, learning how to sharpen it. Well, a sharp knife is the key to not cutting yourself. I know everyone gets a little worried about that, but it really, really is the truth. And learning to sharpen your knife is an important thing. So once you get that skill down, you can have a knife for, I think I've had my knife for 20 years.
So buy a quality knife, learn how to sharpen it, and you can have it for decades.
Decades, yeah.